जनाजा इसका इतना मजलूम है मूसा काज़िम।
Hasbunallahu ni'mal wakil, ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir la'inir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina wa Maulana Abil Qasim Muhammad. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salatu wassalam is the 7th Imam, the 9th of the Masumeen. His name was Musa, the only one to have this name amongst the 12 Imams. And his laqab, or the title that he went by, is Al-Kazim. Also known amongst the Shias as Babul Hawa'ij, for the fact that he intercedes on behalf of the believers in the court of Allah. And his kunya that he goes by is Abul Hasan al-Awwal. Abul Hasan obviously is Imam Ali. Abul Hasan al-Awwal is Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam. And his birth is in the month of Safar, the 7th of Safar, the month of Safar. Some people, because of the fact that they're doing Azah in that month, they refuse to celebrate his birthday, right? But still, his birthday is in the month of Safar, on the 7th of Safar. His Shahadat is what we are commemorating right now towards the end of Rajab, which is the 28th of Rajab, or 25th of Rajab, is his Shahadat. Now, in his time that he lived, he was the Imam for 20 years, and in his time he faced different khulafa who turned their animosity towards him. Amongst them, the first one being Mansur al-Dawanaqi, and Muhammad Mahdi, and Hadi Abbasi, and Harun Rashid. These were the people who opposed him. Now, I am saying these things to you, and obviously all of this information that we hear about of our Imam does not constitute ma'rifat of the Imam. Knowing all these things does not make you a believer, does not make you a supporter. In fact, the enemies know these things more than the Shias do. Teachers of Islam, the experts of Islam, know more details about the history of our Imams than the Shias do. But does that mean that they are going to support them? When we read the hadith, Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliya, someone who dies and does not have the ma'rifat of their Imam dies the death of ignorance. What is this? This knowledge is not ma'rifat. This knowledge is not ma'rifat. Having this knowledge does not constitute that you know the Imam or you're going to support him. And this was always the problems with the Shias, right from the beginning. If you see that the Shias have a legacy of abandoning their Imams, go back into history and you will see this, that the Shias throughout history, the one thing that they were known for is abandoning their Imams, leaving them high and dry, running away when the Imams need them the most. You start off with Imam Hassan, you know what happened to him. People left him left and right. No one wanted to even stay with him. the people that he appointed, for example, Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, the younger brother of Abdullah ibn Abbas, that Imam Hassan had appointed to be the commander-in-chief of his army, so that they can fight with Muawiyah in the plots of Muawiyah. What happened? This Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad was made an offer by Muawiyah and Amr ibn As. They made an offer to him. Interesting to see the offer, right? He was offered in order that he leaves the Imam, abandons him and goes away, right? So he was offered a position in the Syrian army of Muawiyah. Muawiyah said, you leave him, I will make you the commander of my army, number one. So you get to command my army, which is going to be a victorious army, and Hassan is going to lose, so you're going to be in charge of a losing army, and you might be killed also. Number one. Number two, a multi-million dinar deal, right? He offered him lots of money, and it was huge at that time. He offered him, here, take this money and you have it. And obviously the third thing is, all the good-looking women he wants, right? That was in the deal also. So he was offered three things: a position, money, and girls. And you know what he did? He took the bait, he took the offer, and he ran away and left Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan was left with what? With nothing. What is this? He was left with nothing. All these things. At the end, Imam Hassan was forced to make a treaty with Muawiyah. We go down the line, Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein was in Hajj. He was trying to preach to the people who came for Hajj and saying that what is the truth, what is right, what is Islam, what is submission, how do you submit to Allah, what is the right thing for you all to do. He was preaching that to the people there. And you know what happened with him? He said that, listen, it's time for us to break our ihram and go away from here. And the people who were his students or who were listening to him, his audience, said, well, here's the problem, that we have with you. The problem is that Allah sent Islam, Allah made us for ibadat, not fitna. Hajj is ibadat, and what you're doing is fitna. You're creating a fitna because it's politics. And we don't want to get involved in that. You go on your business while we do our Hajj. This is what they did. They abandoned Imam Hussein. They said no to him. And they stayed and did their Hajj. They did their Hajj. This is a legacy. Now you go forward and look at the other Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam. Say the salawats. If you look at his history, it's the same thing. Now he had lots of students, right? You hear about 4,000 students that he had, and many followers, for sure. He had many followers. There was a student of his, one of his best students, by the name of Sadir Sayrufi. Sadir Sayrufi was one of his best and closest students, who was a very motivated person, very excitable, emotional person also. And he always used to tell the Imam that, listen, you need to do something. You need to rise up. You need to make a revolution. Because, at that time, you all know that the Umayyads, the Bani Umayyah were going away and Bani Abbas were coming in. It was a transitional period for the Muslim rule. So the rule was weak. And hence, a lot of people thought that if someone wants to, rise up against the government, this is the best time to do so. This is the best time to do so. So he also advised the Imam. He said, listen, you're my teacher. I'm telling you, this is the best time for you to rise up. The people are ready. Bani Umayyah is on the run. They have no place to hide. Everyone is against them. If you rise up and if you take the position, then you know what? The government will be yours Islam will be yours and everything will be so good. Now Imam Sadiq, he looked at this person, and this is the person who was one of his closest students. I mean, someone who sits with him every day, who hears him every day, who is taught by him every day. Imagine this. He's not someone who's an outsider, like we are outsiders, right? We don't, we have never seen the Imams. We have never seen the Marja, right? And if you do come for ziyarat, maybe you get to kiss his hand, right? But that's about it. You don't get more than that. This person had all the interaction with the Imam that you can ask for. This person was close to the Imam, and he's advising the Imam. So the Imam, he's like, okay, how do I explain to this guy? So what the Imam did is that he took him out. He said, all right, come with me. Let's go. So they went some ways out of the town. They went out of town. And as they went out of town, there was a flock, there's a herd of sheep there. And the Imam looked at him. He says, that sheep, the herd over there of sheep, you see that? He said, yes, I see that. He said, if in all this ummat, if all this nation of Muslims, if I have that amount of people who will stand up with me and won't run away, I will stand up. This student, out of intrigue, he started to count the sheep. He started to count the sheep. There were 17 sheep in that herd. Imam is saying, if I had 17 people who will stand up with me, support me, and not run away, I will do that. In all these people, of all the 4,000 students he had, and the many other followers and Shias he had, he could not depend on 17 people to be with him. There's something wrong with the information we have about our Imams. And this is why it's so important for us to see what is it that we Shias need to know that will help us to be supportive. The information about the Imam, data and statistics about the Imam, really the people who knew it ran away from Karbala. The people who joined Imam Hussein had no clue about these things. If you look at the companions who gave their lives, a lot of them had no clue who Imam Hussein even was. Imam, they didn't know that. He was Imam Masoom, they didn't know that. He was the third Imam, they didn't know that. Zuhair ibn Qayn didn't know that. He had no idea. A lot of the companions had no idea who these are. All they knew is that when they saw the truth, they had the character to stand up. They had it in them to stand up and to give their lives for the truth when they saw it, even though they didn't know who this person was. But I know that this person is the truth. I don't need to know these things. If I knew what is the standard of right and wrong, then you know what? That's what's going to help me to stand with the Imam. Not knowing his name and his history and all these things. Really, those are the things, the very things that the people thought that will help them to be with the Imam. That was the marifat of the Imam, but it never worked that way. And this was the problem all the time. When we look at the life of Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, we see the same thing. We see the same thing that happened to them. What happened to Imam Musa Kazim? I mean, really, if the Imam, and you know his history, right? You know that the Imam was in jail. In jail for 14 years. If your leader really, let's say, I'm just saying right now, alhamdulillah, we have a lot more marifat than the people did then. And it's not because of us. Really, right now, at the age we're living in, we have a lot more ma'rifat and a lot more understanding than the people who were living with the Imams. And I can say that with a guarantee and surety. You all have much more better understanding of what it means to be a Shia than the people who lived with the Imams, taught under them, who lived under them. It's not because of you, it's because of Karbala. It's because of Ashura, it's because of Imam Hussein. His teachings have been ingrained in us. The blood of the martyrs has done its job of making us alive again, right? Because of that. I mean, right now, if you hear, for example, if you hear that Ayatollah Sistani is put in jail, would you be just sitting around and going to work tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning comes and our marja is in jail. So let's go to work. Imagine this, right? There's going to be an uprising, right? We're going to make noise. My friends, the Imam was in jail and the people and the Shias were going about their business. They're living their lives, doing their business. You know, there is a huge discrepancy, don't you think so? How in the world are you just going about your business when your Imam is in jail? He's in jail and you are just going around about your business? My friends, this is really something wrong with it. Imam Rida alayhi salam, right? He was taken as a hostage, you know, as a hostage to Khurasan. He wasn't, for example, going there on a vacation or he had a free will. They actually arrested him, made him a hostage, a prisoner, and they were taking him there. And you know, when the Shias heard that the Imam is on his way to Khurasan, so a lot of Shias invited Imam Rida to visit them on the way. And one of those famous visits was Nishapur. If you go to Nishapur, what happened in Nishapur? The Shias invited the Imam to come there, and when the Imam came there, he's a hostage, he's a prisoner. And the only thing they can ask him was for a hadith. Please teach us. He said, what are you doing? The Imam is being taken as a hostage and you're asking him to teach you? Really? Aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to say something? This is the problem. You know, if Shias are like that, and if our Marifat is like that, then really there's a problem there. And that's where we need to learn, what does it mean to be a Shia? What does it mean to be a Shia, so that when we look at Imam Musa Kazim in jail, that, you know what, I'm not just going to sit here and take that. How can he be in jail and I'm walking free outside? And no one's saying anything about this. What are we doing? This understanding, this emotion, this idea, where does that come from? And that is what we want to at least get a glimpse of understanding. Salli salawats. You know, Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam being in jail is a result of the ummat leaving him alone. So we have to find a way how we don't end up leaving the Imam alone, abandoning the Imam. We have to see what is the way to do that, and that's important for us. You know, let me just share a hadith that I have from Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam, in that it helps us. Because even in that situation when he was in jail, you know, and the jail in those days wasn't like, for example, you know, like Alcatraz, you know, where you have these prisons, this and that. No, jail was, for example, he would be given to a person to hold as hostage in the dungeon of his house and live there, right? And so it's up to the person who is the jailer or whose house he is in to treat him the way he wants to. Now, usually what would happen is the Imams obviously are very good people. They are very attractive people. They are very kind, generous, nice, helpful all the time. They're always like that. If you ever meet any of the Imams, you would start loving them, because of the fact that they're always nice, they're always good, they're always caring. You know, they're never harsh, they're never hard. They always have the best, your best interest when they deal with you. So whenever you meet the Imam, you're nice. So even when the Imam was in prison of these jailers, he would impress them to the extent that they would now start helping him out, making his life easy. And that's why he was moved from one jailer to another. Because as soon as Harun Rashid would get to know that this jailer is helping him out and making his life easy, he would give him to another jailer who would now, make his life hell. And when the Imam will go there, then he would win over this jailer, right? And that's what happened with the Imam. So now, even with all of them, Imam used them and their servants and all of them to get the messages and teachings out to the Shias. He made a secret communication between his Shias through the servants and slaves that are working there in the house of the jailer, in order to get the communication out and teach them and give them the important messages that he needs to give them. He's doing all of that for us. He's doing all of that for us. Now the Imam is there, he's in that situation. And now when we look at it, in that situation, he taught us. One of the things he taught us is how not to abandon your Imam. If it was a book written in our days, it would be say, how not to abandon your Imam for idiots, right? Simple version. Simplistic way of looking at how not to leave him alone. How not to see that he's in jail and have a good time at home. Really. So here's his advice as to what a Shia should be and how not to abandon him. His words of wisdom for us, in order that if we learn them, then we can, inshallah, make it a habit in our life as to what does it mean to follow the Imam. Salawats. Okay, now he goes on this hadith, right? So long, I'm not going to share the whole hadith, just important points right from the start. He starts out, he says, like for example, he was asked, Man shiyatuna, and he says, Min shiyatina man la ya'du thawtahu sam'an wa la sha'nahu udhanan. Right? He goes on, let me just translate this for you. He says that, our Shias, who are these Shias, right? He starts to give certain habits of theirs. He says one of the habits is that they don't talk a lot, right? They are very wise. They are very street smart. They're smart. They do not talk. When they talk, they make sense. And what he means by that is that they are not going around announcing everything openly to everyone in order that we become exposed in front of our enemies. To think, my friends, do we have enemies or not? Do Ahlul Bayt have enemies? Does the religion of Ahlul Bayt have enemies today? And I'm not talking about Wahhabis, please, if we had enemies like Wahhabis, it would be so easy to deal with them, right? I'm talking about people who are smart, right? People who are smart, people who can make plots to misguide you. There's a lot of enemies, right? We have, Allah says that in the Quran, right? We have in the Hadith, that for example, there are enemies all the time. There are plots all the time. People are planning. When Allah says makaru, they plot. What does that mean? It means that they're plotting. There are people who are making schemes against you. So it's a declaration by Allah saying that you are being watched and you are going to be harmed. Right? So that's the case. So the Imams are saying that, listen, you in every time that you live in need to be very smart in how you say things and what you say, so that you don't expose us or our companions in our Shias. Don't expose them. Wow. Gives us advice. Then he says, and they don't lend their ears to the enemies. When the enemies talk, the Shias are smart enough to know that this is all BS and I don't need to hear this. I know where this is coming from. But what happens is that, for example, if you're easily influenced, if you're gullible, if you're simple-minded, then you will listen to every newscast that is out there and say, it was in the news. Really? It was in the news? Don't you know that that news might be made up, or it might be wrong, or it might be this thing? I mean, how bad do we have to be that Donald Trump has to tell us it's fake news? You know, and that's the bad thing about it. You know, we should know from the start, I don't need to trust you. Why am I going to trust you? It's a principle he's giving. Do not lend your ears to the enemies. Don't hear them so easily and be simple-minded that you're just, you know, influenced by them like that. These are signs of our Shia. He's saying, if you're like this, it means that maybe there's a chance you won't leave me, right? Or the Imams saying. Then he says, after that, they are, the Shias, he's saying, our followers are those who do not hate Shias. It's very important, my friends, this point. This point was also, I read in the advice that Imam Rada gave to Abdul Azim. Abdul Azim was in Ray, and Imam Rada gave this advice to Abdul Azim, saying that, listen, here are the things that you need to teach the people. My advice to the Shias, he says, one of those advice is that do not create fitna amongst the Shias. If there is fitna, try to get rid of it. Don't try to add to it. Do not create divisions amongst them. Try to create unity. Any movement that's creating unity for Shias, join that movement. Any movement that's creating divisions amongst our Shias, do not join that movement. Really, these are advices for us that the Imams are trying to give us so that we can become strong. Because you'll see there are so many things that happen amongst us that divide us right away. You know, a lot of things, you know, issues. And sometimes we need to see, is this issue really important enough for us to fight over? Really, this is their advice right now. Do not create disunity. You know, I'll give an example, right? From the ayat of the Quran. Well, you know, in Hadith also, right? Just one example, and that'll be it for today, you know, because we said we're going to hold this for half an hour, all right? So here's the deal, right? Let me give you that example. You heard about the story when Allah invited Musa to the mountain, right? You know, he invited Musa to the mountain. So, you know, and Musa went there, and he invited him for how many days? Can't remember. No. 30 days, exactly. He invited him for 30 days, and then what happened at the end? He kept him for 10 more days, right? So he kept him for 10 more days. Now, for the people, it's a big deal. When Musa said 30 days and he didn't come back the 31st day, somebody said, hey, listen, you know, something happened to Musa because he's a prophet, he doesn't lie, and hence, you know, something happened to him. So what did that mean? So we need to make our own God now. You know, okay. So obviously, you know, he made the god and everyone started worshipping this idol. We all know that he started worshipping the idol, everyone worshipped. And when Musa came down after 10 days, he saw the people worshipping a cow, a golden cow. You all know that history, right? Now, this is in the Quran, right? It's in the Quran. When Musa came down, he was so angry, he went to Harun and grabbed him by the beard. He grabbed him by the beard, and he just shook his beard. He says, what the heck did you do to the people? You let this happen? Did you let this happen? Now, you know, obviously it was a very sensitive issue. It's idol worship, it's shirk. And he's saying, you let shirk happen amongst the people, the community? You didn't stop it? So to that, Harun replied, which Allah mentions in the Quran. Can anyone remember that reply? Harun replied back to Musa, and he told Musa, what? Why did he allow it to happen? He was afraid that if I raise this issue, that shirk is haram, then they are going to disunite and create divisions. I was afraid of that. So to them, idol worship is okay as long as you are together. Even that is okay. Disunity is worse than idol worship. Musa was, yes, you're right. I would rather have the community together than to have divisions. My friends, anyone amongst us who's creating divisions or trying to create, say, oh, these Shias are different and these Shias are different and these are people, like, why are you doing that? Imam is looking at all of us and saying that I just want you all to be together and grow together. Because when I come back, you are going to be my family. You are going to be the people I depend on. And that's the reason, really, we need to move together. And this is the advice that Imam Musa Kazim is giving. And when a community does not listen to that, that's why you see the Waqifiyah sect. Waqifiyah were the people that when Imam Musa Kazim was asked about them, right, is it all right that we should go and meet the Waqifiyah? He said, no, do not meet them. Do not go near them. Don't go near them. But they are Shias also, right? So on one hand, the Imams are saying be united, but on the other hand, they're saying this Waqifiyah. Why Waqifiyah? Because Waqifiyah, the whole basis is to divide the Shias. That's why you're wrong. If your movement was about uniting the Shias, it would be right. But the Imam, you know what he called them? He called them Mamtura. You know, they are Mamtura. You know what Mamtura is? The Mamtura is a dog that goes out in the rain, and when it comes back inside, right, it shakes itself, and the water goes all over the place and makes itself najis, makes everything najis. He said they're like that. When they come to you, amongst you, they are going to spread their najasat amongst you. They'll spread their najasat amongst you. So people who are trying to divide are the people that we need to be saying, wait a minute, why are you trying to divide us? Why are you trying to make us separated? There's a problem there. These are the things that we need to be smart about, the advices that we need to follow and say that, listen, no matter what happens, we're Shias. Because, you know, when you look at each other as a, just a sort of inspiration, I'll give it this to you, right? When you look at each other, what do you see? Who do you see sitting next to you? Who do you see sitting in this hall? You know, when you look at each other, who do you see? You know, when you come here to Masjid Alrasool, and if you see the people around you, you see a person that Imam Zamana is crying for. That his heart is melting for, and he's crying for. And he looks at you and says, you know, every time this person goes wrong, it's Imam who's being hurt. And here we are trying to put that person down that the Imam is working so hard to guide. It is really, my friends, when we look at the advices of the Imam, their life was meant to make us stronger, to make us better people and followers. Being a better follower is what the Imam is trying to advise. You know, just last thing I would say, you know, is this, you know, and 14 years the Imam was in jail. The people were still doing Latmiya for Imam Hussain. Yeah, they're doing Latmiya for Imam Hussain while Imam Musa Kazim is in jail. He's in jail and they're doing their rituals, they're doing their ceremonies, they're doing all these things, and they don't see what's going on with the Imam. My friends, this is where the truth is. Don't you see that sometimes, you know, when Amr ibn As raised the Quran on the spears as a misguidance for people, as a distraction, we need to be smart enough to find out where is this Quran that is wrong, that's on the spears, that is misguiding us. Where is these things that are wrong? And trying to get back. Imam being in jail was not easy. 14 years he was in jail. He was in jail for 14 years. It takes an incompetent and irresponsible nation to see their Imam in jail for 14 years and not do anything. It is really sad that that happened. And you know when they came out, They came out when they brought the Imam's body out, and they kept the body on the bridge of Dijla. They kept it there. 3 days, the body of Imam Musa Kazim was kept there for spectacle, for show. And the Shias came out. They came out, you know why? To see whether he was killed or he died of natural causes. They looked at it and said, oh, you know what? There's no sign of any injury. Really? This is what the Imam is worth for you. I mean, for us. This was what was sad. Imam was so alone when this person who was the guard, the last one, Sindhi Sahek, his name was, last one. He was the most brutal one. Because, this person, he took pleasure in beating up Imam every morning. When he used to take breakfast for him, he would beat him up first. He would hurt him. He would injure him. And he would do many other things. I can't even say those things. I can't even speak about those things that he would do to the Imam. But the Imam, all I can tell you is this. Imam used to tell Sindhi, he says, you can do with me whatever you want. You can beat me as much as you want, but don't speak about my mother Fatima. The jailer used to hear the Imam speak under his breath. When he went near to see what the Imam is saying, he used to call out to his son, Raza, Raza, where are you, Raza? I miss you. And when he was isolated and when he was sad, he would call Masuma, Fatima, where are you? When the Imam was brought out, they announced that the Imam is going to be brought out, so all the people came out to see that the Imam is being brought out. When they saw the door, everyone was there in the morning to see that the Imam is being brought out. You know how he was brought out? When the door opened to the jail, they first saw his head come out. And then the rest of him was being brought out by these people. All they saw was the body of the Imam. But the chains were still on his legs and feet. Look at that. Someone give him a coffin. Someone give him a shroud so that it could be put on his body. After 3 days, the shroud was brought there. The coffin was brought over there, and it was given to him. After 3 days, they put it on him. And even it had to take a cousin of Harun Rashid to say, this is the son of Ali and Fatima. Why is he lying here on the ground? Someone give him a coffin. I will make sure he gets a burial. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا محمود بحق محمد، يا الله بحق علي، يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطر، يا محسن بحق حسن، يا قديم الإحسان بحق حسين. Allah, give us the tawfiq to be on the right path. Give us the wisdom to understand your guidance. Hasten the reappearance of our Imam. Make us his helper when he comes. وآخر الدعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.